Hello and welcome to Relatively Crafty, a knitting podcast. I am your host, Cristi. I come to you from the Denver area of Colorado with my husband, Ron, and our two daughters, Tatum, who is 12, and Delaney, who is 9, and our tuxedo cat, Lilu, who may or may not make an audible appearance in this podcast. We'll see if she mews while I'm recording. It is Halloween. Happy Halloween, everybody. I am wearing my jack-o'-lantern t-shirt. I only wear it once a year, so it always looks really nice. And I am coming to you post-dental appointment with nice, clean, shiny teeth. No cavities. Got a really good bill of health from the dentist. Unfortunately, that bill of health does not continue on into my sinuses. You may be able to notice by the sound of my voice that I am suffering from a cold. I am on the other side of it now. Saturday and Sunday were really rough. I did as little as possible. Saturday we went out and bought a pumpkin because the children can't go without carving a pumpkin, and we hadn't gotten one yet. And then Sunday I did go to the grocery store because we needed food. We all like to eat at least once a day. My children demand to eat at least 3 times a day. So I did do that, but other than that, I just kind of sat around and was a bum, very pathetic. With lots of lozenges and tissues and Airborne and everything else that I could think of to make me feel better. So I will be editing out any sniffling or coughing, and I apologize now for the nasal quality of my voice today. And any background noise you hear because the cat has decided that now is the time to romp around in the library and play with all the things that she's been ignoring. She's just like the kids. Whenever you record, that's when they need you. I don't know if you have kids, but if you do, you might experience this. Mine always knew exactly when I would put earbuds in my ears. They could play by themselves for hours and not need me at all. But the minute I put an earbud in my ear to watch a video or to listen to an audiobook, that's when they're like, Mom, I need you right now. Rotten kids. This week's episode may be a little bit on the short side because I just don't have quite as much to show you guys this week. Mostly because the weekend is when I normally get the lion's share of my knitting done, Friday through Sunday, but I was sick Friday through past Sunday. So I don't have a whole lot. I didn't get a whole lot accomplished, but I do have some stuff, so I will go ahead and pull that out. Let's start with FOs. Oh wait, let me do just a bit of administrative stuff first. I would like to say that our autumn accoutrements KAL is still going on. You have until December 22nd, I believe, with which to knit any kind of accessory. It can be any weight, it can be any pattern, it can be any kind of yarn that you want. It just has to be an accessory. Basically, the only things that don't count are like garments, sweaters, socks, and blankets and that kind of thing. But if it's something that you wear on your body as an accessory, then that totally counts. Anywhere from 1 yard to 399 yards counts as 1 entry. Anything from 400 yards and above counts as 2 entries. And I ask that you put 2 FO posts in the FO thread if you have something that counts as 2 entries. And I have ordered some prizes to award for the KAL. I will show those to you when they come in. They haven't yet, but I am looking forward to being able to show those to you. So let's go ahead and now get into FOs. I have 2 FOs, and they are both socks. The first one is my socks that qualify for my box of socks KAL that I am participating in all year long. It is hosted by Kristen of the of the Yarngasm podcast, who dyes Woolen Vine yarns. And you're just supposed to knit a pair of socks for yourself. 12 pairs in the year. You don't even have to knit them once every month, but I have taken it upon myself to knit one pair every month, and I've taken it upon myself to knit old stripies. So I've set them all aside at the beginning of the year, and now I'm going through and picking from them, although I only have 2 skeins left. So anyway, this is A Million Stars in the Gemini base, I believe, and the colorway is We're All Mad Here, which is an Alice in Wonderland reference, and awesome. Alice in Wonderland is my favorite story. And you might notice that I offset the stripe, so I started this one with blue and this one with red, so they're just one stripe off, and I just liked the way that that looked, so I went with it. I did these with my regular kind of recipe. I did a Turkish cast-on toe-up, did a true afterthought heel, and then did 1x1 ribbing with Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind-off. And they're super fun, and they will go into my box of socks box, which is starting to look pretty full now, actually. I could have fit more than 12 pairs in there. I need to find a 12 pair only box for next year, but this one worked for this year. So yeah, I will put those in there right now. Well, after I finish podcasting. And then my other finished pair of socks is also ones that are for a KAL that I need to knit every single month, and that is for the Desert Vista Dye Works 3rd Annual Monthly Sock of the Month Club. I think I might have messed up that name. But anyway, the idea is that you knit a pair of socks from Desert Vista Dye Works yarn each month, and you have to start them and finish them within the month. This is my October entry. I have done one every month this year, and I only have 2 months left to go, and then I will have completed the entire year. This is in their Vista base, and the colorway is Jan and Dean. It was a very fun colorway to knit up. I really like the stripes. I love that they don't really kind of, I don't want to say they don't go together, because they obviously do. The socks look great, but it's not like obvious, an obvious pairing, and I like that. With Desert Vista Dye Works, they tend to get ideas for colorways from customers, and so people will post movie posters, or I'm assuming in this case it was an album cover for a Jan and Dean album, and they just make the colorways off of that. So it was fun. I will say that I did get some staining of my fingers with the blue and the purple, but I am hoping that a little soak in some vinegar will help with that. Other than that, they were fun to make. And I made these exactly the same way as I did with the other ones. A Turkish toe, cast on, true afterthought heel, 1x1 ribbing, Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off. It's pretty standard for my stripy socks. And that is all that I finished this week. I really had to focus on those socks. I wanted to get them done and off my plate as soon as possible. I did finish the A Million Stars for the box of socks fairly early on in the week. I think I finished them last Wednesday. But then the Desert Vista Dye Works ones took me a little bit longer. And being sick didn't help, of course. But I did manage to get them done in time, and I did manage to cast on some new projects. So I showed you this sock a couple of weeks ago. This is the sock that I am knitting for Ron, or the pair of socks that I am knitting for Ron, and this one I had finished a couple of weeks ago, but was going to wait to cast on the second sock until I got my required KAL knitting done. And since I did, I went ahead and cast on the second sock. I am not very far, just a couple of rows in on the ribbing, but I know that once the ribbing finishes, it will go very quickly. The nice thing about these is that they're stripes for the leg, which goes fast, and then I've done a heel flap and gusset, which isn't my favorite heel. I mean, it's a fine heel. It looks nice. it works. It's a very serviceable heel, but it's not my favorite to knit. But the nice thing about it is that when you're finally done with the gusset, you're like here on the sock, and so the foot's almost halfway done, and so it does kind of make that. Once you get it finished, once you get the heel finished, it feels like you've gotten very far. Whereas with like a Fish Lips Kiss heel, you've only just done the heel, and an afterthought heel, of course, you do after everything is done. So this one does make you feel like you've made a lot of progress on the sock, but it does take longer to do the heel. Anyway, I'm totally digressing. My point is, I should be able to get the second sock done quickly, which is good because my husband has decided that he kind of likes wearing these hand knit socks. We've had some pretty cold weather lately, and as I've said before, he has 3 pairs of hand knit socks, and he's only ever worn them. He only had 2. I recently gave him another pair that had been sitting in my drawer for a long time that didn't fit me quite right. They were a little bit too big. But he only wore those 2 pair as slipper socks, on very cold nights, and he'd only wear them until he went to bed, and then he'd take them off, and so I never really thought, that there was much point in knitting him his own socks because he doesn't really take advantage of them. Something about this winter, I think maybe because autumn has hit a lot stronger this year, maybe because last autumn we had just moved to Colorado, and so we didn't really get to embrace it as much, but he's been wearing them, and I think it's finally kind of dawned on him that he could wear them as work socks, like to work, instead of just as slippers after he's come home and he's in his jammies and whatnot. And so yesterday he wore a pair of socks to work, and he showed them off to some of his coworkers that also have awesome socks, not hand knit socks, but awesome socks. And so he was like, well, check these out. And his coworkers were very impressed with the socks that his wife made. So he came up to me last night and he's like, I need more socks now because I want to be able to wear them more often. I've only got 3 pairs and I've already worn all 3 pairs, and now they're in the laundry, and I need more. So not only am I going to have to do at least his sock laundry more often, because he does only have 3 pairs. See, I only do like sock laundry once a month, maybe, because I have, 60, 70 pairs in my drawer, so it takes me a long time before I get through them all. And so I'll just, wait until they all kind of accumulate, and then I wash them all at once. With him only having 3 pairs, he's going to get through them 3 days, obviously, and I'm going to have to wash his more often, which is only, a minor convenience. But I know that if I knit him more, then he will wear them more, and or he'll have more days before they have to be washed. And honestly, once we get to the warmer weather, he won't wear them again. He's not like me, where he wants to try to wear, only hand knit socks all year long. And honestly, even I get to the point where it's, June and July and it's 95 degrees outside, and I don't even really wear them very often. But I do definitely need to knit some more socks for him. So you guys may see those here coming in the new year. I don't know how many I'm going to get done before the end of the year. But it would be nice to be able to knit him a pair a month or a pair every other month, depending. But I won't have quite as much pressure on me for it as I do with the KALs, because I don't have to get them done before the end of the month and that kind of thing. But I do have 4 skeins in my stash that have been earmarked for him. And I've told him that if he wants me to knit him more socks, he's going to have to be pretty flexible about the colors. I am not just going to knit 100 pairs of brown socks. He's got to be pretty open to what colors. They got to be fun. Otherwise, what's the point? And I don't find dark, business appropriate socks to be very enjoyable to knit. And since he can wear jeans to work, I don't think that he has to have business appropriate socks at all times. So we'll see how it goes. But anyway, I totally got off on a tangent there. The next thing that I cast on this past week is my pumpkin spice latte mittens. Now, I haven't gotten very far on these, but I will post a picture of what they're supposed to look like. And I have only started the cuff of the first mitten. I am knitting these out of Jamieson and Smith 2-ply jumper weight, which is the yarn that Ellie at Skein Deer Knits, who is the designer, knit them out of. And I will say that this yarn is great for color work because it's very grippy. These would be perfect if you're going to knit a fingering weight cardigan in like Fair Isle or in some kind of stranded color work pattern, because the yarn grips itself really well, so you can steek it without as much concern about it unraveling. In fact, I know that some of these really grippy yarns, people don't even sew a steek. They just cut the yarn because it just doesn't come undone. I haven't really gotten that solid of a feeling in my knitting yet to be able to cut without sewing a steek. But regardless, it is a good yarn for that. However, I will say that it is not soft in any way. This is 100% real Shetland wool, so it's very rustic, I think is the word that they would use. So these are not going to, this would not be something you would want to make a cowl out of. You wouldn't want this sitting up against your neck. It's rather itchy. But I think it'll be fine for mittens. And it looks like it's fitting very nicely. I am knitting it on a US 1 needle. Ellie she's sized it going off of gauge, but honestly, okay, I have a hard enough time doing a gauge swatch for a sweater. I just couldn't bring myself to do a gauge swatch for a pair of mittens. I know what size yarn or what size needles and stitch count I have used for color work mitts that I have made in the past, and so I went ahead and kind of went off of that, and yeah, it fits fine. I obviously haven't gotten into the color work bit yet, but I will eventually. I wanted to get these cast on, and then as soon as I did, I wanted to cast on my next project. So I did just, not even the entire cuff. I think I have like 4 more rows of this brown color, which is, I didn't say the colorways, did I? FC38, and the yellow is 91. So, yeah, it's looking good so far. These, of course, are not mittens that I can just knit while I'm out and about. I need to look at the chart and whatnot, so they're not travel projects. However, I have been taking advantage of just kind of having an afternoon and sitting up here in my library with my audiobook and just knitting and not having any kind of other stimulus. I often sit at my computer and knit while I'm watching podcasts and stuff like that, but I find that I just end up spending the entire day at my computer, and while I'm really still not being much more active by sitting up here and knitting instead of knitting down there, at least I'm not doing it in front of a computer screen. Yeah, I don't know if I'm improving it in any way, but it does feel like I'm improving my life a little bit. And I am keeping that in my pumpkin a single strand pyramid bag, which is I absolutely love it. And I love that this is not just a Halloween bag. This is an autumnal bag, so I can use it for November as well. September, October, and November. I have retired my Halloween bags as of today. I know I could still knit with them today, but I'm not really going to be out knitting very much. I did take Ron's sock to the dentist with me, and I took that in my Whimsy Stitches Woodland Creature bag, and that was fine. By the way, my entire dentist office dressed up today, and they were Peter Pan. The entire office were characters from Peter Pan. So the dentist was Peter Pan, and then a couple of the hygienists were John and Michael, and Wendy was one of the receptionists, and then there was Captain Hook, and one of the other receptionists was the crocodile, which was adorable. So I like it when there's like a theme. Oh, and there was a Tinkerbell as well. Anyway, so my last project that I cast on is the one that has had the most of my attention for these past couple of days. I really tried so hard to get to the point where I could take the sleeves off the needles for you guys today, but I just didn't quite make it. I'm about 6 rows short. But I guess that's just the way it goes. The sweater that I'm sure you can tell like it's a sweater I'm referring to, is the So Faded by Andrea Mowry. I have been wanting to knit this for ages, and when it first came out, beginning of summer, end of spring, I went out and bought the yarn for it immediately from the Yarn Cafe Creations, and I was super excited about getting started on it. But as it always goes, I had other knitting that I had to get done, and so now I have finally gotten to the point where I don't have to knit any sweaters for my mom or for my children, and I can finally get back to knitting a sweater for myself. So I cast on the So Faded, and here's a picture of it, so you know it's a stockinette fingering weight pullover. The pattern originally calls for some garter stitch on the sleeve caps, but I have omitted that because I'm not a big fan of that look. It looks fine in some of them, but some of the other ones it looks like, I don't know, like they have extra padding on their shoulders, and I just don't like it enough to want to have it in mine. So I am doing it in just stockinette. And I am knitting it out of Yarn Cafe Creations, as I said. The first color is Ocean Mist, which is, I always thought this was gorgeous in the skein, but now that I've knit it with it, I'm like, maybe I'll have enough of this skein that I can knit myself a pair of shorty socks out of it, because it's such a gorgeous color. And then I am fading that into pumpkin carving, and fading that into Selkie, and then fading that into darn it, I don't remember. Forest Nymph. So yeah, I won't have as much in the sweater with this color, but I do want it in there. It's basically going to be these three mostly, and then a little bit left over, a little bit at the bottom of this. But yeah, I have just started fading in the pumpkin carving, and it is looking really good. Let me go ahead and show you. I say it's looking really good, but it's all on the needles, so it kind of looks like a mess. But hopefully you can kind of see. I don't know how well that... Yeah, this is the front. And it's got a bit of a scoop neck there at the front, but maybe the back will help you see it a little bit better. So you can see I've got 3 or 4 rows of the fading done, and I think I have 1 more row of each. You have to do 5 rows of each color, 2 row stripes of each color, and then you fade in. Then you go into the next color. So I am getting there, and yeah, I love the way the ocean mist is knitting up. It's just such a gorgeous colorway, and I think the pumpkin carving is working in really well. And like I said, I've got like, I don't know, 6 rows left, and then I will take off all these sleeve stitches. So next week you should definitely see a much better progress. I am hoping that by next week I will be fading, at least to the point where I'm fading in the Selkie. We'll see how it goes. I am making this, I don't know if you're not familiar, this pattern it has like design options. So you can make it kind of a crop sweater, you can make it with short sleeves or 3/4 sleeves or full-length sleeves, I think, or you can make it a full-length sweater. I am going full-length all the way. I want this to be a throw-it-on over a tank top or a t-shirt to wear, on, our slightly chilly days or inside the house on the colder days. And I'm hoping that this is something that I can wear inside the office when I get myself a real grown-up job, which hopefully will happen here pretty soon. Yeah, I'm looking forward to having these kinds of things to wear in offices, because they always end up running the AC higher, and it's just nice to wear your own hand knits at the office. At least that's, I think it is. I've never done that. The last time I worked, I didn't knit, but I've always dreamed since I've started knitting sweaters. I've dreamed of being able to wear those to work, and so have people actually see them besides my kids and the people at the knit shop. Because at this point, that's about all the people that see me in my knitting. I never leave my house. If nothing else, I need a job just so that I have an excuse to leave my house. Anyway, I am holding that in my kitchen clutter bag. Oh, I love this bag so much. And that is all that I am working on. Yeah, I don't have very much. Like I said, I focused on those socks and then got those 2 projects cast on, and that was about all that I managed to do. You know that you're sick when you don't want to knit. In fact, the only reason why I got as much knitting as I did this weekend done was because I had to get those Desert Vista Dye Works socks finished. I knew that I had until the end of today, but I didn't know where this cold was going. And so I just, any time that I was conscious on Saturday and Sunday, I was knitting on those socks. And then I got them done, and then I went and just kind of vegged after that. So the next sweater, you've heard me say this probably 150 times before, but I'm very much in sweater mode right now, and there are so many sweaters that I want to knit for myself, and I want them all now. But I am kind of like prioritizing things, and so I'm going to knit So Faded, and then I am hoping to shortly afterwards knit the Comfort Fade Cardi, which is Andrea Mowry's most recent fade pattern. She is really enterprising on this whole fade fad that is happening, and I think that's awesome that she is really, taking advantage of that and coming up with all these great patterns that incorporate the fade. And I love that she's making them into sweaters, because I as much as I appreciate and love the look of her fade shawl patterns, I knew that I wasn't ever going to wear one of those. But these sweaters, man, if she keeps making fade patterns for sweaters, I'm just going to be in hog heaven. Anyway, I had mentioned that I was planning on knitting the Comfort Fade, which looks like this, by the way, out of out of these yarns that I had in my stash. This is Madeline Tosh in, what base is it? The Long Rider DK in brass. And this is Legacy Fiber Arts in what does it say? We'll Make Snow Angels. It's a really pretty, like, blurple colorway. And then I had Teeny Button Studio in her Squish DK in Gilded Unicorns, which is just a gorgeous, gorgeous colorway. And then I had Swoonish in her Walker DK in the Lisa Frank Bender colorway. Well, some things have kind of changed. For one thing, I knew I was going to need more yardage. And I had mentioned last week that Carrie of the Creative Obsession had had a colorway that she had come up with for to kind of help support the fires in Northern California, and it was called Come Together. And so I ordered a skein of that, and I thought it was going to work perfectly with these skeins, and it does. But I've kind of come to a realization that I'm going to have to make some changes. So I'm going to show you Carrie's yarn, and it is one of the only things that I have for yarn haul. So this is kind of like future knitting and yarn haul all kind of mixed in together. Here is Come Together. Oh, Carrie, I love this colorway. You have totally outdone yourself. You are so talented. I know that I say this like every week, and I sorry, but not sorry. Like, I can't help it. Just love your colorways. So so I was looking, and I was like, you know, these work well together. And then, you know, I can do this one, and then this one, and then I was like, if I put in all of these, it's gonna, I was afraid it was gonna make it hard to do the fade because the pattern calls for 4 colors. And you have certain yardage for each color. And I was like, I know that I could probably do it with single skeins of, you know, like 8 different colors. But is it going to be a big headache? Wouldn't it be easier to try to do it with the 4 colors like it calls for? So I opted to drop out the brass and go with these 4 colors. And I was going to have this one as my first color because I would only need 1 skein of this, and I knew that it was going to be hard to get another skein of this. I know that her yarn, you know, Sue and Chelsea's yarns are hard to get hold of. So I didn't want to run the risk of not being able to get another skein of this. So I thought I'll make this one the first color because I only need 1 skein, and then do them in this order. So I would need 2 skeins of this, 3 skeins of this, and 2 skeins of this. So I went and looked on Swoonish's Etsy shop, and she had another skein of this in the shop, so I went ahead and purchased that, and I just got shipping confirmation today, so that will be here to show you guys next week. So I had that done. And then I talked to Carrie at Creative Obsession, and I was like, can you dye me a couple more skeins of this? You know, if you're going to be putting it up in the shop. And she said, yeah, actually I was planning on putting some more up in the shop. I'll just, you know, set 2 aside for you to purchase. And so I was like, okay, good. And then I contacted Robin at Teeny Button Studios, and she, unfortunately, this is a spring colorway, and she's not going to be able to be dyeing it until then. And she apologized, you know, she was very nice about it, and I completely understand. Her shop is really taking off, and so I can't expect her to just, you know, drop everything and do a special color for me. So I was like, oh, well, bummer, I can't get another one of these. So now what do I do? So I talked to Carrie a little bit more, and I was like, is there a colorway in your repertoire that you're going to be using, that you're going to be dyeing up, that maybe I could put with this? And And so she was like, actually, yeah, I think so. How about you do this, that? And we showed pictures back and forth, and we finally figured something out. So she is dyeing some Fire in the Sky in DK, which, if you watch my channel, you know that I'm in love with. It's such a great color, and so now I'm really excited about having an excuse to purchase it. And so I'm going to bring this back, this brass, and Fire in the Sky. So we're going to go from here, I think it's like this, with Fire in the Sky right here. And I think that that's going to work really well. Now, of course, I don't have the Fire in the Sky to show you, but I will hopefully by next week. But that is a very convoluted explanation of what I am now doing with my my Comfort Fade Cardi. So you probably don't care, but that's where I'm going with it. So anyway, part of my yarn haul is this gorgeous Come Together skein by Carrie, and she did mention that she is going to be putting some more of these in her shop. She did have them as a pre-order and donated a portion of the proceeds to the fire rescue, but she's decided to continue to sell that colorway, which I think is awesome because everybody should get a skein of this. And I will probably end up purchasing a skein pretty soon in sock weight so that I can make some socks as well, because I just think it is a gorgeous, gorgeous colorway. And then the only other two future knitting things that I have are my socks picked out for, my skeins picked out for my November socks. For box of socks, I am going to be knitting this skein. This is White Iris Yarns, which unfortunately is a defunct dyer. She no longer dyes yarn, but this is in her merino sock stripe, and it is Strawberry Lemonade. It is just a two-color red and orange, or red and yellow rather. So I think they're going to be thick stripes, 10 rows. But I am excited about this. And then for Desert Vista Dye Works, I am going to be knitting Buzz and Woody. So one sock will be out of this 50-gram colorway, and the other sock will be out of this 50-gram colorway, and I'm super, super excited about these. I think these are going to be super fun. So, so expect those. And yeah, that is all that I have planned for November's knitting. My family will be here for a little bit. They're coming for Thanksgiving this year, which is awesome. Well, my parents are coming. My brother and the rest of my family aren't going to be able to make it. But I am excited to have my parents. Last year was the first of my entire life that I hadn't spent Thanksgiving with my parents, and it was not nearly as much fun as it normally is. And it's not like we do anything really huge for Thanksgiving, but just having them around makes a difference. So having them here, I'm not sure exactly how much knitting I'm going to get done. They're going to be here for nearly a week, and so I may get a lot or I may get less. It depends on how many things we do. So we'll see how it goes. And then going into yarn haul proper, the only other thing that I have is this skein, and this is Andromeda sock yarn. The colorway is Santa's Bermuda shorts, which I absolutely love. But as far as I understand, all of her colorways are one of a kind, so she doesn't make them again, which is an interesting concept. From the dyer's point of view, I can totally see the advantage to that, because you never have to worry about recreating, not getting it right, and you can always run into these happy accidents. But then she names them all, and I think I would just run out of names eventually. And then from a buyer's standpoint, of course, you're kind of screwed if there's a colorway that you really, really like. Like, there was one, I got this at my local yarn shop, which is Colorful Yarns in Centennial, by the way, one of my friends grabbed the most gorgeous orange skein right before I saw it, and she bought it, and I don't begrudge her buying it in any way, but I would have bought it if she hadn't, and now I know that there won't be another one, so she's got it. She just better enjoy it, is all I gotta say. But anyway, I really like this one. I'm not certain when I will knit it. You know, it's a Christmas colorway, isn't it? Amy of Stranded has been doing these Christmas socks. She's wanting to knit herself 25 different pairs of Christmas socks to be able to wear one for every day of Advent. I think it's 25, that's what she's planning. And I keep thinking, what a great idea that would be. Now I have this, plus I have the Slothmas. Maybe I should knit 25 pairs of socks for Christmas. Yeah, that's what you need to do, Christy. Is you need to set yourself up to knit a whole bunch of specific socks again. You just complained last week about being stuck in too many specific KALs. I will knit this eventually, and I will wear it probably all year long because that's what I do. Okay, so that is all the knitting. I am going to get into books, and I do have a decent amount of things to say about books because it's Halloween Day, and so there's things I want to say about Halloween type books. So if you're just here for the knitting, thank you so much for joining us, and I will see you guys next week. But in regards to books, let me go ahead and go over what I have recently finished or are reading. I think I had just started Pretty Girls when we talked last week. I think it was only a few pages into it. I have finished it, and it was well done. Karen Slaughter writes like disturbing psychological thrillers. She's kind of like Gillian Flynn in that way, where it's, you know, it talks about things that you're not sure you really want to know about. The same thing happened with The Good Daughter by her, which is what I read earlier this month. So I appreciate her work. She's a very good writer. She does what she does really, really well. But I have to say that you kind of lose your hope for humanity when you're reading her books. So you have to kind of keep that in mind. I don't think that I would want to read her series. She's got several series out, and I don't really have much interest in those, mainly because I don't want to read long series of things that are going to make me feel like there's no hope for humanity. But I'm very interested in her standalones. And then this was just an ARC, as I said, an advanced reader copy. So there's nothing added to this. But the audiobook that I borrowed from the library had a short story at the end called Blonde Hair, Blue Eyes, which is kind of a prequel to this book. This book is about two sisters who, like, 17 years after their oldest sister disappears, and they think that she was abducted. The police kind of think that she probably just ran away or, just left. They decide that they're going to kind of look into it a little bit more and discover, more things about it. The prequel is what happened before that sister disappeared. So it was interesting. It was a short story, 60 pages or so, and I read it after I finished this one. I don't know if you should read it after you finish this one, because it does give you information about that third sister. It doesn't spoil anything for this one, but I don't know if I would have found it as appealing if I didn't know already who all those characters were, if that makes sense. So, yeah, I kind of feel like I read it in the right order, reading that prequel after. Yeah. Anyway, I did enjoy this. 4 stars. But like I said, it's not happy, and it's shocking, and there's a lot of times when you're just like, ew. And then I am currently listening to The Girl Before by J.P. Delaney, and this is also an ARC, but I'm not too late on this one. This one only came out in January of this year, so it is still considered a new release. And this is the story about kind of like a smart house, and it rents for very cheap. It's in England, but there are some interesting rules that go into it. It's like it has to be very minimalistic. You're not allowed to bring a lot of things. There's no children, and you're allowed to live there, and that kind of thing. And it goes back and forth between Emma, who lived there before, and Jane, who is living there now. So it keeps jumping back and forth in the timeline. And Emma passed away in the house. She fell down the stairs. It was declared an accidental death. And Jane is kind of learning this after she's already moved in. And it's interesting. And the landlord is kind of, he's like this a genius architect, and yeah, there might be more to Emma's death. You don't really know. I am about halfway through, and I'm enjoying it. It's got 2 different points of view, of course, going back between Emma and Jane, and it has 2 different narrators for each point of view, and I like that. Each narrator is giving each character their own life, which is always good. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. I don't know if it's the best of the thrillers that I've read. In fact, I would say it's not the best of the thrillers that I've read this year. But I'm enjoying it. It's a little bit predictable, but not in a bad way. It's an enjoyable read. So yeah. And then kind of a nice surprise book for me was this one. This is called The Scary Children and the Carousel of Sorrow by Katie Towell. And I picked this up at Book Outlet, which is a discount overstock bookseller, bookoutlet.com. It's a great place to find books for less than $5, and I often buy books from them. And I think I probably picked this up from them for $2. Middle grade books are often very, very cheap. And it's been sitting on my shelf for 2 years. I finally decided to go ahead and grab it, and I'm actually a little bit impressed with the creep factor in this book. It's not as creepy as those Dan Pawlowski Shadow House books that I was talking about last month, but it does have a little bit of a creep factor, and I am very intrigued to see where it goes. I should finish it tonight. I have less than 100 pages left, and I am enjoying it quite a lot. It's interesting. Yeah. If you like middle grade, I would suggest this one. And then because it is Halloween, I would like to bring up my favorite illustrator who fully encompasses everything that is creepy and perfect about Halloween. Even his name, and I don't even know if this is his, born name, but I'm talking about Gris Grimley. He's an illustrator, as I said, and he takes already creepy stories and then re-illustrates them and re-releases them with his illustrations, and he just does a wonderful job. There's A Study in Scarlet by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, which is a Sherlock Holmes story, and there is one of his illustrations in that book. Some of them just have, the odd illustrated page. Some of them are completely illustrated. He did Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. This is one of my favorites, just for his illustrations. I think he did such a great job with this story and how he kind of tells the tale with both the actual book and his illustrations. Then The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, which is, of course, a Halloween staple. Another very good job. One of my personal favorites is The Halloween Tree by Ray Bradbury. I'm sorry, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow was written by Washington Irving, I should say that. The Halloween Tree by Ray Bradbury. This is a great book to read on Halloween Day, and it's one of those ones where he's just got a few illustrated pages mixed in with the book, but they're so beautiful. This is the first, my first entry into his illustrations. For his birthday last year, I got Ron this, Edgar Allan Poe's Tales of Mystery and Madness. Just beautiful. Hop Frog. Beautiful illustrations. Not beautiful in the classical sense, of course. Kind of gruesome illustrations, but I think they're beautiful. And then this one just came today, and I got this from Book Outlet. This is Gris Grimley's Tales from the Brothers Grimm. So it is stories from Jacob and Wilhelm Grimm, and then Grimley has added his take in illustrative form on these stories. And I am super excited about checking this out. As I said, it just came in the mail today. Love Gris Grimley. So if you like that kind of gruesome type of illustrative work, if you like Edward Gorey type stories as well, you might really like Gris Grimley. And Book Outlet tends to have a couple of his works around every so often, and so whenever I go on there, I always look to see what new things they have. But I would highly recommend anything that he has. I think I have a couple more. I have the ABC book that Neil Gaiman wrote that he illustrated, which is amazing, and then I've got another one, I think on a children's book, but I didn't bring it over here with me. So anyway, I think that is it, guys. I am going to rest my voice. My throat is getting tired. And I want to get back to my book, and I want to get back to my So Faded sweater. I definitely want to be able to pull that off of the needles, or pull the sleeves off of the needles today. So I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Halloween. Happy trick-or-treating, and be safe tonight. We are going to our church. We're not doing anything really fantastically spectacular, but our church has a fall festival where they have carnival games and they give out candy, and so that is what we're going to do with our evening. My children are very excited to come home from school and get into their costumes. They weren't allowed to wear them to school, so that was kind of a bummer. Delaney is Hermione Granger, because she is a child after my own heart, and then Tatum has decided to be a female Robin Hood, which is a really cool costume for her as well. So yeah, last year she was a ninja. This year she's the female Robin Hood. She really likes to be kind of like heroes on the sly. So anyway, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and happy knitting. Bye.